So let's get started. There's a lot to go through, so welcome back. Um, and for today's session, before we get started, a couple of items. I am recording this for you guys to view it for later. Number two is today's session is to go through the activity diagrams and what exactly is it, and how to use it as a toolkit, using the case study we did last time or last week. That being said, a couple of housekeeping items. One is, you know, the ultimate goal for you guys is to find a job that you will be happy in. And one of the things I think that could help you guys would be to come up with your own case study. So I am open to the idea of us as a group brainstorming next week. So maybe after the class, we can stay back next week and kind of brainstorm. You can bring in your ideas and we can kind of discuss what case studies would make sense for you to kind of build your portfolio. I know, Unnati, you may have some ideas. Lalita, you may have some ideas. So what my thought is, bring it into the what I call instructor hours after the class, and we can brainstorm and kind of help build your portfolio based on the sequence of classes that we're going through. So just a couple of thoughts there. That being said, how's everyone doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good, good, good. I see a chat. Can you hear me? Am I still breaking up?
You're better now.
Okay, okay. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, so uh, last week we got into three steps to kick off a business analysis effort. And then we kind of went into the role of being a project versus product. Can you guys tell me at the highest level what are some steps to kick off an effort? I just kind of want to do a recap. So like I said, just to help you out, the first step is to really, um, well, and I've written this article, it's on the website, is so really discovery of the effort, understanding the stakeholders, through the stakeholder matrix and building a requirements management plan. So those are your kind of kickstarting of the efforts. And within the discovery of the effort, you kind of build your context diagram. So the step-by-step process is available on the website, so feel free to use that at any point. The recording is there as well. So it'll give you a good sense. I do want to highlight when you talk about the role of a business analyst, it's more of someone that really um, understands the changes that your business is experiencing and identifying what the business needs are and translating that into whatever that means in terms of systems, applications, IT projects, so forth. That's at a high level. And then the other part of it is project versus product, right? So we spoke about that as well. So a project is basically something that has a limited timeline versus a product is something that extends beyond the project. So in this case study we were developing, and this will help us build the activity diagram, is we had said we want to build an kind of online ordering store system for this brick and mortar restaurant, vegan restaurant. So in this case, the product is the online ordering system, and the project would be to kind of implement that product. Now, the product, the online ordering system, will last beyond the deployment of the project. So in terms of updates to the online ordering system or adding things on, that'll continue. But the project for now is to kind of implement the online ordering system. Um, so I'm gonna pause here, see if anyone has any questions so far. If not, we'll move on. The next part. Today's agenda is to go through UML. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but I'll break it down for you. Understanding what is an activity diagram, elements of that specific diagram, and differences between process flows and activity diagrams, and how do you do an activity diagram. So that's kind of what I'll spend most of our time with. So don't get scared about the terminology UML. A UML is simply a process flow, a way to explain what the system will do. So that's at the highest level, and it's a visual representation of a system. Bringing it back to our case study, right? So our online ordering system is the system. So UML is a big umbrella of different techniques that business analysts use, even for that matter, data analysts use, to really visually represent, and in this case, the online ordering system. The UML is broken down into three structures, and this may be asked in your interviews as well, so that's why it's kind of good for you to understand the high level, is what is a structure diagram? Structure diagram includes, and you don't have to know them in detail, but as long as you're familiar with what these are, I think that's the benefit. So structure diagrams are like class diagrams, object diagrams, component diagrams, so on and so forth. There's behavior diagrams, and you'll hear this a lot. Use case diagram, and we'll be covering that next week. This is important because the use case diagrams really represent the interaction between a user and a system, and we'll go through that later. The activity diagram, which we'll be going through today, is another critical piece for a business analyst, and that is kind of explains what the system will be doing. And then a state machine diagram. So not all of this is used that often. It really depends on which domain you're in, which what you're used to in terms of what your style as a BA is. Interaction diagrams would include things like sequence diagrams, communication diagrams, so on and so forth. So I've seen like tech leads and technical people use a lot of sequence diagramming, but from your perspective, it's good to understand what this is all about. So that being said, this recording will be available on the website as well, so you can kind of review it later. The next is activity diagram. So that's our focus for today. So think about three things here. So an activity diagram is really, I'm not going to go through the line by line here, but think of it as a movement of the system. In this case, the online ordering system would be, there'd be certain activities that happen within the system, and how do you diagram it out, right? So how do you draw it out? So that's kind of basically what it means over here. I did ask or request, and this is good for you to understand, is how do you create process flows? How do you create process charts? Lucidchart is one of the tools out there that you can use. It is I think you can do like 3 free process flows / diagrams in that. And so it's a good place for you to start practicing, and you can sign up for a free account. And that's exactly what I'll be using today to create the activity flow. And I think, to give you an example, this is kind of how it looks, and this is exactly what I'll be using for today's activities. All right, so moving on, what are the elements of an activity diagram? I have this available on my website as well. You can download it. It's called the activity diagram cheat sheet. It gives you the symbols, or if you would, the elements of basic core notations that I used in building the activity diagram. So I'm not sure if you guys can see it clearly, but really it's, let me increase the size here. All right. So, yeah.
You're actually breaking up a lot. I'm not sure if it's from my end or it's from your end. But yeah.
So maybe I can. Unnati, are you having the same issue? Okay, hold on. Let me try to log out. I might have to bump you out though. That's the only thing. Hold on. Let me try one thing. Let me turn you.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, it's
Okay.
better.
I think what's happening is in the transition. Maybe I should just stick to not putting it in full view. Okay. Just speak up if you can't hear me. Thanks for bringing it up.
Actually, it's still breaking up.
It's still breaking up.
Your first episode, good. Same
Hold
again.
on. Let me mute again. Hold on. I'm hoping this works. Change the location, otherwise I'll have to log out and log back in.
Oh, This is a lot better. Yes.
Yeah, this is,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Okay, thank you.
Did you lose me at some point? Like, did you hear the whole thing so far?
Like, can you just, Rashmi, can you just go back to the, before the activity diagram section, which you explained, the UML part? Can you just go back to that? Because, that point you were breaking up a lot.
Okay. So this is it. This slide.
Yes, yes, Rashmi.
Okay, yeah. So I was just saying that the UML is more of an umbrella that consists of different techniques just to draw or visually represent a system. You don't, as a BA, need to know everything, but it's good to know the names. And this is why, because during the interview period, I think this is one of the questions that might be asked. The critical ones that I think that you need to know are the use case diagram and the activity diagram that fall under the behaviors diagrams category in the UML. The rest of it, class diagram, you might be, and I will be covering that as well. But the other pieces, read up on it just as an FYI. But critical ones are use case diagram, activity diagram, class diagram, so it's nice to understand that. What is an activity diagram? It's kind of your flow of the system, not necessarily the interaction between like a user. In our case, the user could be a customer for the online ordering system and the system, but this is more of like, what does that system process look like? And you'll understand it better as we move along. I did ask if you could kind of open up a Lucidchart account. It's free up to 3 process flows, and then I think they push you onto a trial. But it's good for just to begin with. It gives you the understanding of notations and how to just practice. And the other tool I would highly recommend, and this is not free, but I think once you get into a working environment, you want to really get familiar with Visio, which is VISIO. So Visio is key, used a lot in the industry. Lucidchart, there's some other free graphical tools. You could use that for practice. It's nice to know, and you can add that to your resume as well. So what are the elements of an activity diagram? It's really, this is templates on the website. Download that, use that as your cheat sheet. There's more than these notations that people use, but these are the core ones. And I think this is critical for you guys to kind of understand at the beginning. So things like start point, this is the start of a process. Logical end point, this is how the end of a process is symbolized. Action or behavior, you're going to use that a lot. So what is the action or behavior of the system? What is the activity? Decision, represented by a diamond. Control flow, which is really the lines connecting. Could be a decision to an activity, could be an activity to a decision. So you'll see that visually, so you'll get a better understanding. Fork, just at a high level, it's kind of used when you have 2 simultaneous activities that are happening, and I'll show you an example. And then join is when there's 2 simultaneous activities that are connecting to one individual activity. So no need to kind of panic at this point. You'll get used to it as you start practicing, you start iterating through. Next one is, I just wanted to kind of illustrate here a flow. When we say what is the process flow, there's always something that a user needs. In this case, in business analysis, we use the term actor. Actor could be a customer, could be the system itself. So there's always like this back and forth between the actor and the system in this case, and then the actor and the system. So there's always, that's kind of what a process flow is. It's like the back and forth between the actor, the system, and then this happens. So just something to keep in mind when you're building out, could be an activity diagram or a process flow. Just kind of highlighting the difference between an activity diagram and a flow chart. So I'm not sure, are you guys familiar with business processes and business process flows? And if not, not a big deal. So really, there's a difference between activity diagram and a flow chart. From an awareness perspective, you might be asked during an interview is activity diagrams part of the UML family? And when I say UML, it's more like someone many, many years ago decided, all right, we're going to create a unified modified language that will hold a bunch of types, techniques of creating process flows, right? So it's part of that family. Flowchart is basically used by as a business process modeling tool. So let me give you a very simple example. In our case, we have an online ordering system, right? And we specifically want to model, well, what is the system doing? That'll be the activity diagram. Now, as part of the online ordering system, in order to kind of prep staff, the CEO or the owner of the company as to how to use this, that could fall under the business process modeling bucket. So think of it as like two different things. One is kind of like at the macro level. Activity diagram gets very much into the weeds of like the system. So this gets into, it's used in software development for an activity diagram. The flow chart of the process flow is used to understand business processes. The three high-level differences, just so you get familiar with what there are. And as you move along, you'll get more clarity on what those, why is there so much, why is there so much detailing in process flows? So another example, and I will be using this example to build our first diagram, is to make tea process flow. What is the make tea process flow? One is to fill the kettle. That's your activity. Second is to add tea. Third is to add milk. That's kind of like your straight, this is step by step. Step one, step two, step three. So that will fall under your kind of your flow chart process flow. And let's go to the next slide. Okay. So let's do this as a team, right? So in this example here, all right, so this is the case study. We don't want that. I'm just gonna open up a new Word. Can you guys see the Word doc?
No.
Oh, okay, so let me change the focus. Can you now see like a blank Word document?
Yeah.
Make tea, okay. So in your mind, we just went through kind of like the make tea process. Well, if you were to start with a blank slate, how would you make tea? And you can say anything, and I'll show you how to group it and how to really construct this.
Pour water in a cup.
Yep.
Add tea.
Yep.
Add sugar and milk.
How about we add sugar, we add milk, and split it up? Because when you do analysis, if there's an and in between, you always want to break it up. That should be your signal. Keep going.
Then boil, or rather before adding tea, you can boil, or
So maybe you add water in a, I'm gonna use kettle, but, and then before, so even before you pour water in a cup, you would add water in a kettle, What else in between should happen?
Let the water boil.
Perfect. Yeah. There you go. So to make tea, and before, let's bowl this. So this is your start, right? Let's put an end to that process. All right. So you start, you add water in a kettle, you boil the water, you pour water in a cup, you add tea, you add sugar, you add milk. Now, and then you end the process. Now, Lalita may have a different process than yourself and Mati. So someone may say, hey, I want to pour water, I want to boil the water, I want to pour water in the kettle. No, actually, pour water. So there may be different people have different processes, right? But you want to do the law of averages, like what is the common process that people use? And don't even think about that yet, but this is kind of your baseline, the way you kind of build your process. Now let's break this down into maybe making a sandwich. Now, how do we make sandwiches? Like assumptions are, it's just a simple cheese sandwich. How would we do that?
Take 2 slices of bread.
Yeah.
Apply butter to it.
Yeah.
Fry them.
Fry the bread.
Yes.
Okay.
And then add a cheese in between the bread slices and toast. Yeah.
And then you toast the bread.
Yes.
So let's do this. Start is you start the process. You start the process, you take 2 slices of bread, apply butter, fry the bread, add cheese between the bread slices, toast the bread, and the end is you eat it, right? So so does this make sense as to like when you're thinking process, think about the big chunks of work that need to happen. And this could really, when you say take 2 slices of bread, even before this, you could always say gather ingredients as an example, you know, so you want to think logically, maybe, I don't know. And once again, cooking things are very subjective. And that's kind of your process. Now, what I would like to do is go to Lucidchart and give you introduce you to really activity diagrams and how this works. So I use Lucidchart to build this diagram. So can you guys see the screen? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we just built the process, right, in Word document. But what we did is and then what I did behind the scenes is built it already, so you guys get used to it. So the symbol is start, right? If in my case I use a kettle, so I fill the kettle. Then my next task / activity is I heat the water, okay? And then there's a decision.
You're breaking up again.
Oh, hold on. Wondering why? What if it's the internet? Can you still hear me?
Still breaking up.
Okay. Let's type the. Hold on, let me stop sharing for now. Much. Okay. Is it any better?
No, you're still breaking.
Let me get out. I might kick you out, and I'll come back in. Unless you're telling me that that's not breaking up now.
Okay.
Is it breaking? Am I breaking up still?
Yes.
Okay, I might get myself out and then come back in. Let's see if this works.
Mhm.